Chief, you are a musician,
Yes.
a culture bearer, an author.
Yes.
What else?
Oh man. I guess we could say acting. I got a little bit of that underneath my belt.
Hmm.
Artist,
Composer.
composer. Yes, newly a composer now.
Yes.
And I don't know, visionary.
Yes. You are part of the Golden Comanche Black Masking Indians.
Yes, that's my tribe.
That is your tribe. Can you just give us a little backstory on that?
Well, a little backstory on my tribe is I am the second chief. I'm the big chief now, but I mean I'm the second big chief. It was handed down to me from my brother, who was Wallace Pardo. He started in the tradition as a spy boy as well as myself. He was the spy boy for the Golden Arrow tribe, which was under the leadership of Eugene Esteban, well known around the city as Big Chief Pepe. And so he was the big chief for my brother, who then passed the chiefship on down to my brother, who then passed it on to me. And I've been around this, almost say since birth. And the tribe was formed in 2004, but was in the making throughout the years of the beginning process of my brother's masking. And we filed the charter with the state and to make sure we legally registered the name, and Golden Comanche was born. Golden Comanche, the name, the golden is the prefix coming from Golden Arrow. So we are a branch from the tree of the Golden Arrow tribe. So we put the prefix golden in front of the name Comanche. Comanche comes from territories in which my grandfather traveled through. Being of Hispanic descent, he traveled into America through Mexico, worked and lived in Panama as well, so I have Panamanian and Cuban connections within my family. And he entered into the United States, crossing the border into Texas, and encountered Comanches that were still in that area. My grandfather was born in the early 1900s, well, in 1900 was when he was born. And so that's where the Comanche part of the tribe name comes from, his time spent in his travels leading into the United States.
And when you talk about tribes and your Indian tribe here in New Orleans, for people who are not familiar with it, what do you do throughout the year as far as?
Great question. To explain it, I would say first peel back the layers and view us as any other tribe. And the reason I say that is because oftentimes when you think of tribes, we often think of maybe Aboriginal or indigenous in Africa, people of the bush. But we are still the same, we just function in modern times. And what I mean by that is you replace the mud hut or the teepee with a house. You replace the horses with vehicles. We function in the traditional tribal ways that tribes practiced years ago. As a chief, I'm often a babysitter. I'm often settling disagreements. I'm also planning and working on putting ways for the tribe to grow in economically, fundamentally, mental health, the whole 9 yards. So everything that chiefs dealt with years ago is just a modern version of it today. And as a chief and as a tribe, we are dealing with these things just in present times. So I would want a person to first see us in that manner as tribal, because oftentimes the black masking culture, because of the pageantry that goes on Mardi Gras, it is often confused as a form of social aid and pleasure, because it gets confused with the activities of a second line club, and we are not that. Being as a quick example of that is the suits that we wear are not necessarily, it's absolutely not something you can just purchase. Wherein second line garments can be purchased. A suit can be purchased from the store. And each piece is individual to the individual that wears it and makes it. So that would be, I guess, the short version of how I see us as a tribe.
And during, you mentioned Mardi Gras and the suits. I just want to touch on a little more on the suits because yes, you make them, but I don't think a lot of people understand what goes into making them. I mean, literally the day after Mardi Gras ends, you're starting on your new suit.
Absolutely. I am knee deep in my suit for this Mardi Gras already. Absolutely. The suit, I would want to start people from the pieces all the way into the meaning. So let's start with pieces and how to understand what you're seeing. The traditional tribal native that we saw in history books, when he went into battle, you would see him wear a breastplate, which would be made of small rib bones and bones of small animals with string going through it. And it was to protect his chest and vital areas from, when he was in battle, from being stabbed. When you see what we call a dicky or a collar, it is exactly that piece from that traditional garment. It's just more elaborate. It's the modern version that we create today because we're going into mock battle and not actually a battle with knives, and we're not protecting our vital organs due to potentially being stabbed. But that is what that piece that you see often around the collar and hangs from the collar around the neck, that is just an elaborate breastplate. You would often see when they go into battle, they would take the thickest part of the hide from the buffalo or cow or whatever animal they could get the thickest part of the hide from, and they would create the cuffs that go around their wrists, again, for protection. So when you see us with these elaborate cuffs, it is still that same traditional suit that you go into battle with. And so when you look at these suits, even the apron itself, often we think of the small strip of fabric that hangs in the front. Well, we're in 2025. That strip of fabric now is as wide as a car hood in some cases. So there's a lot of protection there. But nevertheless, it is just a elaborate expression of the traditional garments that were worn by the indigenous years before. So that's the first layer that I would want people to identify what they're seeing. I know it's a lot and I know it's elaborate, but it still is paying homage and keeping that traditional look alive in a new way, reinventing it. From that, now understanding the pieces, you would then get into the intricacies of what we're creating. We are creating pieces that tell a story, that oftentimes may tell a modern story these days. It may tell a story from the past. And what you're seeing is the version of the message that that particular individual, that Indian, wants to tell the world Mardi Gras morning. And so he labors throughout the year working on telling that story for that morning. One thing to take away from when you see a suit that has been created is you are also looking at one entire year of a person's life, and they're carrying it mentally and physically. So I say that to help people see the severity of what we're doing, beyond the pageantry, beyond the fun, and see the individual and what's really happening here. So to reference that true meaning, if a person dies in November and you're working on the collar, you're going to that funeral, you're still going to sew in that week that all of this mourning period is going on. That piece that you're working on during that time period of life now identifies with that person as that part of them. So you're wearing that funeral. You may have been working on the apron during a childbirth, whether it be a child of your own, a nephew. That is celebrated in New Orleans. We celebrate everything. Within that celebration, you're going back home and you're sewing that night or through that week. That birth of that child now becomes a part of that suit. And oftentimes, you'll see a suit and you'll see RIP in the middle of a picture that has nothing, that RIP just stands out. It has nothing to necessarily do with the scene that you're seeing, but you just see RIP and a name or a date under it. And that signifies what's happening in that life, and it needed to be a part of that suit. So sometimes it's sewn into it. It's sewn into it through the spirit and in a relationship, but sometimes it's viewable by the naked eye of anyone because you can read it, you can see it there. But that's what you're wearing. So when you see us come out on a Mardi Gras morning and you hear that yell, it's not for looks. It's not for, hey, look at me. Sometimes that yell is a jubilant release of the pressure that it took to get to that moment. It's expressing the loss of that person that's not there anymore. So there's a lot more going on in the yells and the chanting and the singing of a black masking Indian on Mardi Gras morning. Although people often confuse the revelry and you often can see it from a smile, there's a lot going on within the individual, and so when you see these suits, when you see us in these suits, this is really what you're witnessing. This is really what we're wearing. This is what you're seeing. So anyone that encounters it, this is the information I would want them to have going forward when seeing these suits, because there's a lot of attention to the culture nowadays, and I hope this interview definitely helps get an understanding out there of what's really going on and what people are really seeing. And it's not Carnival in Brazil. There's something, not to take anything from that, but there's just something in a different way spiritually happening there in a suit.
And when you do come out on Mardi Gras Day and with these suits and all the different tribes and coming together, you're singing, yes, or chanting,
yes,
or what's the significance behind that?
The songs go back as old as the culture, and we know one thing. Everybody's heard that drums were the first form of communication. So in those rhythms, we're communicating. In the beginning, we sing Indian Red. That rhythm is slow. It starts off, it's a very slow-paced rhythm. As the day progresses, as we come out of the song, the Indian prayer, Indian Red, the pace of the music picks up. In that, when we're coming out and those songs are being sung, with Indian Red, we're asking ancestors and God to watch over us, the people with us in that procession, that we go in peace and come back the same way, unharmed. The songs have various titles and various meanings. Shallow water. Shallow water today would be very very useful with the water that we deal with here in New Orleans. But through oral history, it is said that shallow water would be sung oftentimes to tell an escaped slave where the water in the river would be shallow to cross, where a body of water would be shallow. So in the pockets of the chant is where the message is passed on. And it was used to hide messages, because if you did not understand what was being told in the song, then it just sounded like a song that was being sung during field work or in a tribal celebration of some sort. But to those who understood the communication, you know that there was a message that would be heard and there was information being passed. So a lot of times, a lot of the songs that we sing were used for that. A song like So 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 is used to also tell a story and to give momentum as you work through the process of sewing and trying to complete a suit. So various songs have many meanings, and those are two of like the elder songs, staples in the tradition, as we could say. But obviously, as those songs were created for different reasons, we have new songs that come out, and new songs are being created for various reasons. Some for entertainment at this point, and some for cultural meaning. So the music plays an important role in understanding the music, understanding the pace of the rhythms, understanding that if you hear the chant "Fire in the Hole," that means two chiefs are getting ready to meet, and that is the fire that they are speaking of is an internal fire, is a flame that is expressed in vocal, song, dance, and of course the elaborateness of the suit. The fire that we're saying is in that hole is within that person. That person is the fire. So that reference in the culture, when you hear that we speak of that fire is us. That fire is the Indian. It is the spirit that we bring forward. So that is what is going on within the music. There is the storytelling, and then there's also the rallying of the troops, which is important. Myself as a singer in the chief and the culture, if we're not engaging with the tribe at the time and we're coming up a very long street and those rhythms are going, you want to keep your troops excited. You want to keep the tribe excited. And so as we going into this moment, you want to sing things that will ignite and keep them excited about the date until we encounter our next meeting, which then doesn't require any amping up once we see a rival tribe. But in that process, you want to sing things. So it's an example of, if I was like singing "Shallow Water" and the pocket came, I would say, "Hey, spy boy, come on through." Then it would go, the crowd would respond, "Shallow water, oh mama. I ain't never seen a spy boy prettier than you." So I would then speak to him, speak to his ego, speak to his inner flame, to let him know and acknowledge that I see your greatness. And as I'm saying this, he's hearing it and feeling it. But then the second line, the people that are with us, they are now paying attention to it, watching him react to what I'm saying. And then we all are now celebrating him and then celebrating each other in that moment. So it's a fiery exchange of energy and frequency. And I don't want to go off into that, but it's an extreme exchange of frequency and sound. And if we know anything about frequency, everything is created from that. And so that is the source, the oneness that we all begin to do what we're doing from.
So it's a lot of visuals, a lot of audio,
Yes.
like all of that stuff, but it's all coming together to tell a story and to, tell people what's happening.
Exactly.
Did you always want to aspire to become chief after your brother?
No, not right off. He mentioned it one time before, like at some point, early in my career as a spy boy, because I started out as a spy. But I enjoyed being a spy boy so much.
Just give a little backstory on what's a spy boy.
A spy boy is the eyes and ears of the chief. He is the very first person in the procession as we walk down the street. He is the one who tells you who is approaching, where they're approaching from, and how he sees that engagement beginning. And his message is then passed to the next person in the procession, which is a flag boy. The flag boy then gets that message to the wild man, and it goes through each member until it reaches the chief in the back, who then has a large staff or stick we refer to as a cooch stick, and he then gestures and gives a signal that everyone knows what those gestures and body movements and signals mean, and he then communicates that response to the spy in the front. And so a spy is in a sense is chiefing from the front of the tribe, and so that's why he and the chief always have a very important relationship. When you're going through New Orleans, it's almost guaranteed when something's going on, you will also always see a spy, a first spy in his big chief. Hence myself, Eric Gordon is my first spy. There's most of the time when we're moving around New Orleans, you will see, if you see me, you'll see Eric, and vice versa. That's just how culturally it's always been like that. It's not even something we control. I think it's just in the spiritual ancestry that it works that way. When I was Spy Boy, anytime my brother was moving around, I was there. It's just the way it worked. There were spies like Waddy with Gold Star Hunting. Anytime his big chief Larry Bannock would move, you would see Larry, you saw Waddy, and so it's just a history of that happening.
So when your brother brought it up to you about maybe becoming chief, how did you?
I thought about it. I knew what it entailed, and so I knew I would be able to handle it in a sense, but just wasn't necessarily aspiring to just jump right into that. Just having the fun with the meets. The chief meeting is such. It's a different process than when a spy meets. A spy has the ability to run, jump. He can. The meeting of spies is just. Oh man, it's the greatest mock battle you ever want to see, and I definitely enjoyed it from the perspective that I would meet people from on a personal level, how I played the position. So I was I was not in a hurry to give that fun up. It's a different type of fun when you're a chief. The suit is larger, it's heavier, it requires more to move and dance in that suit. And there's a whole lot of meeting going on before you ever get to your opportunity to greet the other chiefs that you are going to meet, because all of the other members and Indians in the tribe are meeting each other. So you're kind of back there waiting, but again, you're singing and you're dancing and you're enjoying your second line back there. But I do miss those days of running spy. But being the chief and when that responsibility came to me, I knew that there were definitely going to be some changes made in some of the operations and how things were being ran, because it would be my chance to put my spin on things and lead into my direction. But I would say when the opportunity came and we spoke about it, I gravitated to it because I had been a spy for a few years now, and at that point, and I just I would say maybe a year or two prior, I started kind of envisioning what that would be like. So when it came, I could say I was ready for it.
And what is your thought on the younger generation that's coming up behind you all? Do you find that they have the interest? Do you think that you'll be able to pass it off, and that they're just as interested in carrying on the traditions?
Yes. One thing about this tradition is sometimes you choose it. A lot of time it chooses you. I was in the culture at young and saw it, observed it, and there's just a point where the light comes on, and then you can't not do it. And so I think that that's a spiritual thing, and I think that that's something that will continue to happen. It will touch certain people. There's a young man in some of the videos from St. Joseph Night that I started in Tremé on St. Joseph Night. Right after we sung Indian Red, we started making our procession, and I just noticed this kid that had a tambourine. He didn't mask with any tribe, but he had a tambourine, and he just had this stare, and he was just this look, and I was getting help with the sticks and everything that I had at the time, and so I signaled to him to come over and hold one of the sticks, just to see what would happen, because I could sense something. And he came over and he grabbed it and he was like, "Stand there." I was like, "Yes, stand there." And in that moment, I didn't even realize his dad was out there as well, but he was just letting his son enjoy, enjoy St. Joseph Night, and come to know the kid wanted to mask. So he's probably going to mask with me this year. And the thing about that, as to speak to your question, is that's an example of how it's gonna reach those that need to carry it on, and they will seek it out. They won't know why they're seeking it out. You know, that spiritual element will grasp him, because that kid has to be 9, 10 years old, and his dad told me that he spent the last 2 years only watching Mardi Gras Indian videos, and come to find out he'd been watching me.
Wow.
And I guess now it made sense after I spoke with his father, because he recognized my face in the suit from the videos he'd been watching on YouTube and the songs that he was, singing and stuff like that. And as I talked further with his father, I realized, okay, that's why he just had that frozen moment when he looked like, wait, that's him. Like, okay, I get it now. But in that moment, I didn't know that. I just saw this kid, and I could see that there was something in him that gravitated. So I think moments like that, as long as tribal members are leaving themselves open to see things like that, it'll continue. When it grabbed me, I had no control over it. It was just something I couldn't deny anymore, and now it's just something that I can't. You can't get away from it, I often hear certain people say they're in retirement, and I watch them come right back, because you don't get to choose. That's the one thing I can say about this culture. It chooses you. You don't get to choose, and you walk away when it tells you you can walk away. And myself, I can't. I'm from one thing to the next. I'm working on a suit for this year, and I'm 2 suits ahead mentally.
Wow.
So it's just something that it's a flood of thoughts and emotions and spirit that you have no control over. You just go with it.
And how important do you think it is to keep this going on here in New Orleans, like the traditions and passing it on and informing people about what it means?
It's extremely important. Here in New Orleans for certain, and just even now with the attention we're getting globally. Here is one of the oldest practicing traditions, undisrupted, tribal practices on U.S. soil. And that's something that in a lot of interviews and documentaries that I've watched, and I think I've watched them all, that I think it's oftentimes missing, which is why I'm glad you asked that question. That's why I bring it up at this moment, is because the culture has never been broken. And if you look at even the Native American culture, there was a disruption, almost a ceasing of it. And then there was a revisiting of traditional culture and bringing it back. And then we never had to deal with that process. So there was necessarily never a break in the chain. If you look at the cultural blends that came from the diaspora, okay, so if it came from the diaspora and came here, there was never a break in it, right? So there was a continuation. So there's a very unique continuation that exists within the fabric of the black masculine culture that is unique to anything practicing on U.S. soil. And that's something that I think needs to be highlighted, studied, and visited. And I think it's just something that I find that I think is important, that we understand how far back the culture goes and how it's continued to exist from its original state, and it's only going through evolution. And the reason why I say that is, even now to date, there are modernizations within the Native American cultures, but the evolution of it has a point, because there's a certain creation that they stay within a certain line, wherein we are getting more elaborate. We're changing things. We're making new songs. We're doing all of the. There's an evolution that exists within this culture that has never ceased. So that is a very, very unique thing, and within this culture.
And a lot of the tribes and the Black Masking Mardi Gras Indians have gone on to make bands.
Yes.
And work in the music and incorporate New Orleans music with the tribal things. You're in a band, Tribal Gold, with the big Chief Juan Pardo and the Golden Comanches.
Yes.
So that's kind of like, to me, it's taking what you have, your information, and bringing it to another whole group of people through that system. Yes.
So the band, the music element that exists now in modern times, it opens the door to allowing people to experience the culture in a different way, and it also allows us to express the culture in a different way. It gives way to creativity, and it also creates a doorway for an exchange of creation between musicians and the tribal aspect. And so my approach to that is always keeping the traditional call and response and native rhythms present in the music, and then allowing all other things to participate. So that's always been my approach to it. Anytime you go into, you can take any recording that I've personally created, and if we have it spread out in the studio, track by track, I can mute everything and take you to the base root of Black masking culture. And then unmute each thing where we allow space for things to create, because that is how I start this. I feel as though the success that I've had in the industry with music is because, and this is my own thing, but I believe it's because I stay true to that. There's a lot of times when you make change in culture. For instance, elders feel a certain way, right? So with me being a stickler for tradition as much as possible, I wanted to make sure I kept a certain vein that stuck with what the elders would expect. And especially when I see them and they tell me, "You the one, you gotta," I get the finger like, "Hey, you gotta carry this thing right." So I don't take that lightly, though. Whether it came from another chief, another tribal member, I strip away the worldly judgment, and I look at these people when they speak to me as tribal figures. And so when you do that, you have to respect those words. So when they say you're the one, or we count on you to do these things right, that's heavy. And so from the music standpoint, I try to make sure I stay there in that space, and it's taken me in places that I didn't even know I would go. So I feel that I'm definitely doing something right, because I was told by my brother and a couple of older chiefs years ago, before I even thought about music. It was just a cultural statement that they told me, and it was, do right by the culture will do right by you. And I was told that early in this thing, and it just stuck with me. As I say it today, it stuck with me, and I'm like, do right by the culture will do right by you. And so I approach everything like that. And oftentimes, people when they see the tribal tradition and they want us to participate in things, sometimes I'm not the go-to guy because of that. There are things that just are not going to happen for me or Golden Comanche, because if I do right by the culture will do right by me, and sometimes that requires no's, and I understand that, and I'm okay with that. So that's what I see, from what the music is doing, and again, it's allowed me to travel the world. It's opened doors that some people would think would remain locked. You know, the culture has opened those doors for me, from entering to an orchestral space, present company included. I'm a big person that believes in manifestation, and I think from the spiritual element of culture, that I'm able to move in certain spaces because of the respects, because of the things that the culture allows me to do. And music just provides a table for that to rest upon. And it's doing a lot for a lot of people, you know. And there's a lot of different bands, like you said before. There's a lot of bands out here that are creating the music. And of course, you know, we all have opinions, but I'll say that for me, I focus on keeping tradition forefront in ways in such, like, when I perform, I have my suit on. Some people perform without a suit. For me, I don't want to be in front of the cultural aspect and not bring the culture with me. I've performed without my suit before, it's not a problem. But I enjoy the part of having my suit, having my tribe with me. Not just an individual with the hey, look at me thing, but hey, here's my spy to my left, my wild man's to my right. Anytime that, you know, a situation is possible where that can be done that way, I choose that forefront. You know, if I have to choose between a 5-piece band or a 4-piece band and 2 Indians or 3 Indians, then I'm choosing to have another tribal representation on stage, because it's always bigger than me. It's always bigger than me. And the responsibility is always bigger than myself. So the music, you have to allow it to bring these things forefront and allow people to see what it is you're actually talking about. If I'm singing about my suit, it'd be nice for you to be able to see it. you know, so like I say again, I understand, you know, why many do, you know, what they do, but just speaking for myself personally, I enjoy the aspect of it. It allows me to embody it in a different way, and I like to bring what we're doing in the street culturally to the stage. So I try not to create the same experience. For instance, in the music, a lot of my recordings are, of course, you can write music, and, you know, there's a script to follow. When I'm performing, I can do it verbatim, but I choose not to, because you're leaving out an exchange. You're leaving out the ability to bring the audience in. And New Orleans is the land of improv. And so I like to keep that available, and that's available in the culture. When we're walking on Mardi Gras Day and the Chief is singing, he's singing about all types of things. If the Indian has on a red suit, he's incorporating that in his song. So if I'm here entertaining and bringing culture to the stage, that's what we do. So you're getting the most authentic version of what we do by me keeping the improv portion of it in the performance.
I see you as not only as a big chief, but a big chief who has all these things in his head and wants people to know about the culture and about why it exists and how it happens. And you just keep finding different ways to do that. So, you know, you do it with the masking and the sewing, and then the music and the band, and then recently you did something with the orchestra.
Yes, Birth of a Culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
So, Birth of a Culture, as you know, was a project that haunted me for many years. And it's just something that, again, I think from the cultural element, ancestors wanted this to happen. And so it was on me. It was heavy on my mind, heavy on my heart. and I just could not give that up. And what Birth of a Culture is it's the origin story as it is told by many, 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 many chiefs. And there's a twist to multiple versions depending on who your oral history was given to you by. And like right now, if you look at a lot of documentaries, there'll be little twists based on what chief you're talking to, right? And so I wanted to take all of that information, do as much solid research as I could, and then find a way to tell the closest, truest story to that. And I wanted to do it in a way that made you sit with it. And the classical world requires you to sit with something. It requires you to sit with music. It requires you to sit with dance and movement. And so those two elements allow me to look at the culture from that creative space and like, how do we now tell this story? And how do we tell this story without just a suit right out in front, like a marketing gimmick, but true culture, true meaning. So in Birth of a Culture, we start with the indigenous in Louisiana and in New Orleans and in the area in Balbancha as they go through daily life. And then they witness the arrival of slaves for the first time. And these encounters give way to similarities of a tribal life between the two. And as the native observes these people in chains and in bondage, this is a new thing for them because this is not something that they see. And so it takes you on that journey and it brings you to the pivotal moment, which I call the birth of this culture. Because the number one statement that you will hear from, I want to say 98% of many chiefs is that we're paying homage to the natives for helping the escaped slaves. That is a common narrative to the story. And so if this culture is born from that exact act, then the birth of it, the very first moment, is when the first indigenous person encountered the first runaway slave. That is the birth of this culture. So that is where the title of Birth of a Culture comes from, getting to that moment to get us to where we are today. And that classical piece takes you through all of the phases of getting to present day. And I just wanted people to have an opportunity to see that story without words, to see the visual and to feel something through music and through frequency, and it made you pay attention. And what I got from even creating that piece myself was, as I was creating that body of work, it was doing something for me. And on the first performance of it, I did not expect any of the reaction that it got. It was more moving to people than I ever expected. My idea was to tell the story and allow people to understand deeper, to look at us in a different light and not see, oh, us guys in New Orleans, they do this thing and they come out. Because unfortunately, that's what we do here in this city. And I can leave here, north, south, east, or west, jump an ocean, and really be a chief. I mean, really be a chief. But oftentimes, here, yeah, that's chief. It has a different ring at home sometimes. But I wanted people here to see this culture that they have right here the way everybody else, if I shot out of here in any direction, see it the way they see it for a moment. So let me take some of the stuff that you see all the time that you've gotten used to away. Let me strip it away and let you see the core of this. Let me see if I can speak to something different in you so that you can, when you see me, you see a little something different. When you see one of us, you see something a little more meaningful than, that's guys that big mass, see it a little different. Because I was experiencing that as I was traveling. I was experiencing being seen differently, So that's what Birth of a Culture was about. LPO picked it up, and that is miraculous. That the gravity of LPO allowing me that space is not lost on me one bit. People work their entire classical lives to have a piece of music played by an orchestra. That it doesn't happen. I know it doesn't happen. Not only many people in the classical world that were a little shaken by it, let me know that doesn't happen, and I hope they get their works in there. But for whatever reason, the planets aligned, and it happened for me. So the gravity of accomplishing that and having that piece played in the space that it was played in by that orchestra is almost unheard of, coming from the space that I'm coming from. So it's a blessing. I cherish it, and again, hopefully we get it to the stages again, so so people can see it, and many more experience it. But again, it was moving to watch other people experience that. Like I've performed around the globe, in crowds, I love the exchange. But that to creep around the back of the audience and just watch people take that body of work in, that was life changing for me. Yeah. I just view everything different now, from that.
Right. And then you wrote a book, a children's book.
Yes, When the Morning Comes.
And what is that about?
When the Morning Comes is about Jason and Max, two brothers that live in New Orleans. They are in the heart of the uptown area where the tribes come out on Mardi Gras. They don't mask. Excuse me, but they do. They get to observe it, and the youngest brother is getting the opportunity now. He's paying attention to things more. So he's been to Mardi Gras before, but he's at that age now where his questions and observation is more keen. And the story takes you through the experience of Mardi Gras morning in New Orleans, but it's from the Carnival experience, not Mardi Gras, as we say in the cultural side of things. So he encounters the Skull and Bone gang, and he encounters the Mardi Gras Indians. And his older brother is telling him tales about Mardi Gras. He's creating a fearful moment that it's all taking place on Lundi Gras. And so he's telling him like a scary story in the sense of what's going to happen to him when he sees a member of the Skull and Bone gang, and how he's going to be chased and going through a lot of turmoil when he comes across the Mardi Gras Indians. But the story takes an interesting turn, where he sees that maybe his brother may have exaggerated some things to him. But it's a very fun story, and it kind of plays into something that happened in my house with my two sons, with the older brother and the younger brother, kind of giving each other a hard time with some tribal things, and I happened to overhear them, and that just kind of gave me the idea, the catalyst to kind of go from there, because if this was how I thought about it in this aspect. This is how my kids who grew up with, feathers. Most kids had the things hanging over the crib. They had an Indian suit. You were tapping the little things hanging from the crib. They were tapping plumes that dangled over. So I was looking at the unique way that they were having fun with it among themselves, and I thought, wow, if this is what they're doing, this is obviously the way to allow other kids to enjoy the culture. So I I'm a serious thinker now. I have a very vivid imagination, so I took that and just kind of ran with it. And I took that moment and embellished it and added some things that I thought would keep, make for an interesting children's story. And I think the best stories are always grassroots and truth. So that was a real moment for myself and my sons. And I created the book. It's a nationally published book. It's published through Pelican Publishing, which is the biggest published children's publishing book in the South. Kind of like Birth of a Culture is another unique moment with that. I like action now. I am a right now person. I don't want to say that I'm impatient. I just like results. And I feel like we live in a society that likes to make you hurry up and wait. And I am not a hurry up and wait guy. Like, if you're gonna tell me no now. That being said, as I wrote this, once I created the manuscript and the book was completed, I had it proofread and got all the punctuation, everything ready to go, so an editor wouldn't have to do anything but agree to publish the book. I went to a bunch of websites where they had all of the publishers, how you submit a book to them. And I'm reading it. And everything said, hurry up and wait. That's all out of all of the reading I got, it was wait. And the wait times were not significant for me like that. No, I don't want to be in limbo. Because if you tell me no now, and I'll move on. But if I got to wait 3, 4, 5 months to get a no, I'm losing time here, one of our most valuable resources. I can't just give you that. So that being said, I was like, how do I get a yes or no now, right now? So what I did, I took the manuscript, I called Wild Man John. He was the wild man for the Wild Chopper Tools at the time. He was available during the time frame that I wanted to do this thing that I'm about to explain. And I got with my drummer, Ike, who's like the chief drummer in my tribe, been with me for years. And I told them, I want to take this manuscript and get this book published, and I want Pelican Publishing to do it. But I am not going to wait. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to call there and make sure that everybody is in the building and every person that makes the decisions there is there. So I placed random callers, random people, and then boom, today was the day. Everyone was put in the building. I put on my suit, they got the drums, and I was like, we're going through the front door. This is what we do. This is our culture. We are rebellious, we protest, and this is how we get things done. That's why if we're gonna speak about the power of being Black masking Indians and our fight and fury, well, let's put it to use. So I go to Pelican Publishing, go right through the front door. Drums are rolling, tambourines ringing, wild man's being a wild man, and anyone in New Orleans who knows Jones know that I bought the greatest source of chaos that I could find in the city. And we went through the building and we searched and we got all of the staff up out of their seats and everyone was like, what is going on? And we drew everyone into the room. And once they all got there, I simply stated, if this got the attention of everyone in this room, what's in this book is guaranteed to give everyone else in the world the same effect it just gave you. This is what I'm bringing. It's a children's book. I need to know what we can do. I gave it to them. Everybody immediately read it. And it's out by Pelican Publishing now. I just don't like it. So
that's amazing.
If people ever wonder, how did he get his deal? That is how. I just didn't like the submission process. I just feel like that is an unnecessary process, and I feel like we live in a world full of a lot of unnecessary processes. If you're gonna read a book, read the person's material and pass an opinion. This, Yeah. But
That's a great story. So that's probably, after speaking of all the things that you're involved with, and there's a million other ones that we could probably go down and have this made into a documentary.
Right.
But this is the podcast right now.
Right.
But the other thing now that you are involved with, and one of the reasons you're here, is the Funk Fest. And
Yes.
This year's Funk Fest, you are going to be involved in one of the presentations, one of the installations behind the mask in the Indian village.
Yes.
What is that going to be about?
It's going to have a unique element to it. I want people to be able to experience frequency of the culture. So I have this idea of having a large bass drum with 2 mallets and a microphone present, and a large speaker that has a cover over it so you can't see it, but it's at your back. So if you play the drum, when you hit it and it gives that loud boom, this large woofer gives you that thump from the back, and you feel that lick, which will scare most people, and it's like, what? And then as they hit it, doom, 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 that bass is coming out of that large speaker. And now they're connecting there's a feeling happening, because you're already getting the feeling of beating on the drum with your hands. But now that the product of that thump is coming at you forcefully, amplified. And with each person that encounters that shock wave of frequency from that rhythm, that heartbeat, that bump, it'll open up a whole new way of experiencing the culture. The minute that shock hits you, you're gonna look around that room. It's gonna give you that jolt, right? And when that jolt happens, all of your senses wake up. It's like that. Everything's alert then. Now when you look around and you see the suits and you see the different things that the tribes have within that area, every bit of you is now awakened. And you're ready to be, you've already been shocked, you've been scared a little bit, so you're open to everything. Nothing can shake you right now. You're still trying to figure out this shit here. So that's just one idea that I have for experiencing. And what I want to do is oftentimes we adults are in the front of culture here in the city. What I want to do is get the youth that is available in suits and allow those that sing and chant and dance to have us not in suits play the percussions in that area for them, and allow 2 kids from different tribes to meet each other and let people experience that, and then give them that opportunity to be the forefront, because it's intimidating on Mardi Gras when you're a kid and it's a lot going on, and you're in your suit, but these elaborate suits are around you, and this crowd, this people, and you're trying to navigate that space. This Funk Fest will provide a unique opportunity for those that are available to participate in this capacity to get that moment where they now are supported by the elders in their culture, and they have the moment, and that space is theirs, and they can celebrate each other. And when they look around, they don't have to question, am I doing this properly? Should this happen? Shouldn't this happen? They are in their own moment, and they know that they are being celebrated. And I think that will it'll be a unique experience that no festival has given. We have parades that we participate in other festivals, but not in this manner, because again, it's almost a Mardi Gras feel, right? It's us, the adults, and oftentimes people gravitate to the adults in the suits, and then they see the kids, but the kid is having a different experience. And a lot of times, nobody means anything by it. God knows no one does, but you don't realize that kid's experience is a little more intimidating. So this strips down the layers gives them a space to be comfortable in, and it gives everybody a new experience. Even us as culture bearers. Myself, I can't wait to be able to do this, right? To just sit there and all I gotta do is play tambourine and sing and watch the youth and just have at it. It just have it to themselves, you know. And to allow others to also see that and experience it, and then that'll allow them to have the audience that we have, you know, in a way on at festivals and different things like that to themselves. And it doesn't have to be something, you know, long where they're being overtired, but just enough. And periodically through the day, just allow that to happen. So that's the second experience that I want to allow people to have. And thirdly, again, going back to the drum, I want to have the instruments, the percussion things that we play, and allow them to have a touch and feel moment, and have someone in the culture showing them a little bit of the rhythms, and allowing a sing-along, a drum circle of a sort, from the Mardi Gras Indian perspective, Black Masculine Indian perspective, to participate a little bit and get, as I like to say, get some on you. You know, because a lot of people often ask in the culture, so what's it like? You just got to get some on. You know, you got to get a little bit. You got to get hit in the face with some plumes a little bit. You know, to understand. You know, to know and experience this thing. So that's just, you know, a few of the ideas and things that I'm looking forward to presenting in this year's Funk Fest, in that space and that experience. One of the other things too is just giving people an opportunity to speak in a meet and greet setting, to ask their questions and kind of have a one-on-one Q&A, and understand, you know, differently, because a lot of times people try to have that Q&A when you're in the suit, which is utterly impossible, but they try it. So, you know, that this allows the opportunity for many who wanted to have that moment, you know, to now have that in the space that is curated for that. And I think it allows, especially the way that Funk Fest is going to approach this, is very unique to festivals approaching culture here in the city. Not that they do, but I think just this experience, the way it'll be set up, for the tribes that are participating, it'll be more focused. There won't be any misunderstanding of what this space is for and who is in this space and what's happening here. It'll be very dedicated to the culture and to that moment, and that area won't be shared. It'll be for that moment, and I think the members of the culture as well will appreciate that having that space to know that, you know, we are here, multiple tribes sharing this space, but it's carved out for this moment, you know, over a 3-day period, 2 to 3 day period. So that within itself, especially from a multi-tribal aspect, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm almost 98% certain that it hasn't been done in that way. You know, there's been a tribe in a booth in a space, and then maybe a next day a different one. But to get multiple tribes in that space, back to back to back days of being themselves and being able to, you know, connect with community and festival goers, I think it's going to be fun for everybody involved, those who experience it as well as us in the culture that get an opportunity to show who we are and express and create and exchange with people.
And also a preview of what might take place when the museum is being built.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It gives you an idea of what that space in a museum dedicated to this can be. You know, it can be like most museums know it these days. You have to have an experience. You know, you can't just offer art standing still. So, and I know that the concepts and the ideas that many of the founders involved in the museum, Chris Berry and many others, are looking to create a space where people can experience the museum and the cultures and then all of the things that come with it. Not just come and look at something, read a few things. No, you should leave with something when you visit the museum. And this is a taste of some of what you can leave with. A changing moment, a moment where, again, a family, and going back to what I was talking about with the speaker and the drum, a family remembering how that sound scared everybody and they jumped and our family or group laughed, and creating these moments. And the museum is going to be designed to create memorable moments. We want to be a museum on a cutting edge. With it being a museum being developed right now, it gives an opportunity to even revolutionize things, right? Because museums that exist now, they have what they have. They have their installations. They have their business model. With what is happening and what we're doing here with this museum, there's new technologies, there's new ideas, there's new concepts with all of this information that's in the world now that can go into this museum. It can actually be probably something greater than what's out there already, because it'll be new. And it has an opportunity to extend itself to different things.
Which brings me to a final but very important question.
Oh.
And let me see if I can get all of your titles right. As a Louisiana musician, culture bearer, culture director, board of director of the museum, Mardi Gras Indian chief, author, composer.
Look at you.
What would you say to the governor of Louisiana legislator as to why investing in this project is important, if not more than roads, bridges, and infrastructure?
Infrastructure, absolutely important. But who is the infrastructure for? The people. It is important that oftentimes many people look at legacy building, right? And if I was in a position to have a legacy of doing great things, and then you wanted to also have something that was left behind, what greater thing can you leave than the experiences of culture in the area that you governed? You are presenting the best of the best and saying to people, during my time, I governed this great place. Here's how you should see it. Here's why I wanted to govern this place. I wanted to govern here because of all of these wonderful things. And you attach your legacy to that. It lives on. It outlives you at that point. So, you often see graduates of prestigious universities create libraries because they want to leave their legacy, their name attached to something great. Here's an opportunity to be attached to something great that will outlive all of us involved. And you get to be able to say, under my reign, I was that guy. I was him. That is my approach. When I was asked to be a part of this, what greater thing to be attached to than something that will outlive you, but is bigger and greater than you, because it embodies everything that you're a part of. It embodies everything that he's governing. So my words to him would be, leave a memory lasting and be a preserver of the greatness. If you're governing a great state, and you love it, and you go out and you speak about it, leave something that tells people why you wanted to govern it, why you thought it was great. That would be my message.